everybody. Happy Monday, Happy New Year. Today I shall be talking about diet. So diet, nutrition is always a topic that comes always up, and it seems nobody clearly understands what to do. So nutrition, people are like, should do this diet, should take this supplement, what about ketones, what about that? Stop. You must understand some basic science to understand your body and to get any type of result, okay? So today I shall try to break down nutrition into the macronutrients and how to apply them to either cut or bulk, right? So without further ado, there are 3 macronutrients: protein, carbohydrates, and fat, okay? Protein, the Greek word proteas, the first, the only, you should be consuming. Without it, you die. You need it for your muscles, your skin, your nerves, etc., etc. Does a million functions in the body. It obviously helps you keep muscle on, and so on and so forth. I appreciate all of you. Thanks, guys. So protein, it's basically 2 main groups. There's animal protein and there's plant protein. Animal protein is somewhat superior for the simple reason that it has more of the essential amino acids. What does that mean? That means that there are 20 amino acids, 8 of them being essential, meaning the body can't make them. So if you don't have them, it makes for an incomplete protein. So protein is ranked in the sense of bioavailability. So egg is the gold standard, and then it goes down. You have 100, then beef, chicken, and so on, so sits at 96, and then the plant proteins are like in the 40s, 50s. Doesn't mean they're useless, no. So certain plant proteins lack 1 amino acid, but another plant protein might have it. An example being corn and beans. They actually work together. So as long as you consume all essential amino acids within the day, you're fine, okay? Doesn't have to be in each meal, but during the day. So vegans can run into issues with leucine, so they might have to supplement with that, okay? Next up are the carbohydrates, often demonized. Basically carbohydrates is your rice, your potatoes, your gummy bears, and so on and so forth. You already see where this is going. So there are complex carbohydrates, which is just longer glucose polymers. They are being found, like I said, in oatmeal, in potatoes, in rice, and so on and so forth, aka starches. Then there's shorter ones that go all the way into table sugar, and so on and so forth. What is the story? So people say carbohydrates are not an essential nutrient. This is true. You can create glucose out of protein and fats, but they are very useful nutrient. So in other words, planes aren't essential, but to get to LA, it certainly beats walking, right? So carbohydrates do 2 things really, really well. They help with recovery and with performance. So the more you perform and the more you need to recover, the more carbohydrates you take in. So there's basically, you have to earn them, right? In other words, the bigger you are, the leaner you are, the more you train, the more carbs you can eat. If you do nothing, you sit on the couch all day, you probably don't need any, right? But carbohydrates are not the end of Western civilization. They're not evil. They don't cause diabetes by themselves, and so on and so forth. They just are, okay? Then there's fats, which we can break down into saturated and unsaturated fats. What's the difference? In layman's terms, saturated fats are solid at room temperature. Butter, palm oil, coconut oil, certain fatty cuts of beef, and so you get the idea. Unsaturated fats are liquid, right? Fish, nut oils, olive oil, and so on and so forth, avocado oil. Which one is better? It's a good question. So for the longest time it was said, saturated fat will kill you right away. Well, not really, because think about it this way. Saturated fats, that's your brain, that's your nerves, your testosterone. So we need some, right? Now, if we take out trans fats, which are man-made fat, and they're also not legal anymore in most places, saturated fats are, within reason, healthy. Now, you should eat your unsaturated fats also, but to say that any type of saturated fat consumption will kill you is nonsensical, because like I said, you need to make cholesterol, you need to repair the membranes of the muscle cell after training and so on and so forth. So there is a value to that, right? So those are the three macronutrients: carbohydrate, protein, and fats, okay? And now you need to somehow figure out how to use this in practicality, right, Mike? This is all great and well, but like, how the F do I do this? So basically, there's two things people want to do. They either want to lose fat or gain muscle, right? Cutting and bulking. So when cutting, and we assume that humans are on a bell curve. So the numbers I'm giving are for people who are of a reasonable body fat mass, okay? If you're one extreme or the other, different numbers apply. But for a regular person, this is all very, very simple. You take your body weight in pounds, and that's the number of grams of protein you're consuming. You're 200 pounds, you're coming about at 200 grams of protein. If you're very heavy, it's obviously going to be lower because you don't have that much muscle underneath. If you're very skinny, then there's a different story, but then you shouldn't be losing weight in the first place, okay? So you take 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. If you live in a civilized world and you use kilos, you take 2.2. Carbohydrates is pretty much the same thing, about a gram or so. Fats, you cut down to 0.3, 0.5. As a practical example, you weigh 200 pounds, that's 200 grams of protein, 200 grams of carbohydrates, and about 60, 70 of fats, which puts you at 800 calories plus 800 calories, that's 1600, 2200 give or take as a starting line, okay? You should be losing 1% of body weight per week. If you're losing more, I would dial it up a little bit. If you're losing less, then this. Hey Mike, I can't lose those last 10 pounds. That's nonsense, complete nonsense. If you can't lose the weight, you're eating too much. Usually the issue is snacking. People are pretty good with their main meals, but then when people used to go to an office, there's this, that, the other, and they just grab things mindlessly and eat that, okay? So there's no threshold as to I can lose those last 10 pounds, whatever. It just means you're eating too much. So start with that formula, a gram of protein, 2.2 if you live in the kilo world. Same for the carbohydrates and then the fats. If you're losing too fast, you can always dial it up. If you're losing too slow, you can do other things. For bulking, drum roll please, not much changes, except you're doubling the carbohydrates and the fats, right? So instead of 1 gram per pound of body weight, you're taking 2 of carbohydrates, and you're taking somewhere to 0.6 to maybe a gram of fats. How much should you gain? Well, less than you would like. So drug-free athletes at the very best can gain 1/4 pound to 1/2 pound of muscle a week. So if you are gaining more, you're simply not gaining muscle, okay? So anything over 2 pounds, aka 1 kilo gained in a month is not muscle. Now, in a perfect world, every calorie we save would come from fat, and every calories we consume extra would go into the muscle growth. But that's not how things work, okay? So there will always be some muscle loss when dieting and some fat gain when training, and that can't be avoided, okay? But with proper training, you can kind of go for a 3-to-1 ratio, okay? So there are 3 macronutrients. You need to figure out the breakdown and apply them to your physique goals, okay? And all the rest I shall cover next time, different diets and so forth, but that's the outline you need. If you follow that, you're going to be pretty much okay. Okay, you can feel free to thank me. And is it okay to skip a meal? Well, meal frequency really depends on caloric intake. So, you know, when I was swimming, I was eating close to 10,000 calories a day. Well, that requires 5 meals because that's still 2,000 calories a meal. Somebody who only eats like 1,500 calories can probably get away with like 3 meals or so, okay? But that will be the topic of the next video. I thank you all for joining. Be safe out there, and I see you soon. Maik out.